Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Outside Insider podcast here on Philly Sports Network with myself, Liam Jenkins. You know the score by now, all things Eagles related from the last 7 days, wrapped up and put inside a trash bag at this point because why? Well, we've had a bit of a week of it, haven't we? We've had trash play on a Sunday, trash talking on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, we've got anonymous sources, trash players cut after the game. It's been a week of trash. And this podcast is the icing on the trash cake. I'm the banana peel on the top of the garbage pile. And if you're listening to this thinking, hey, why is a British guy talking about trash and why am I into it? This isn't the show for you, alright? I can't tell you what you are and aren't into, but I can tell you if you want more Eagles content, it would mean the world to us if you could hit subscribe to this podcast on the platform that you're listening on. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Podbox, the orange one, or even inside of a player's helmet, wherever you get your outside insider injection, just hit subscribe. Alright, it means a lot. Now, this podcast in particular is a bit of a wild one for me. I don't mean to push a boat out there, but for once, I've done exactly zero preparation. Because I think this week has been so intense that it doesn't warrant it. It's really weird. Like, normally I'll spend 2 hours before a show going through notes and anecdotes and that sort of thing. You still got all the regulars. Thank you. Next will be here later on. But there's so much that went on this week. You had awful play against the Vikings on Sunday. Zach Brown cut on Monday. Doug Peterson guaranteeing a win on Tuesday. Alex Singleton being called up on a Wednesday. On Thursday, you have anonymous sources coming out. And on Friday, injury reports where everyone's dead. Great. What a start. Like, this has been a train wreck of a week from start to finish. And It's a really tricky one to navigate because I don't want to harp on too much about the loss to the Vikings. There will be aspects we do have to relive, so apologies in advance for any PTSD you will suffer from this game. But I do feel as though this is a very, very important week for the Eagles and everything has gone about as wrong as it could. Okay, so let's just rewind here, and I made a point on Twitter that I'm not going to talk too much about the Josina Anderson stuff because it's for clicks. Like, fair enough to Josina Anderson, she's doing her job, someone gives her information, she puts it out. That's her job as a reporter, okay? I fully understand that because I'd be the same. But anyone third-wheeling off of that, any blog, website, writer that is going, oh, anonymous player, so expensive. Why? Why are you enhancing the circus? There's no point, right? If you're chasing clicks, cool, fair enough. PSN, we don't do it, we don't need it, that's not who we are, not what we do. So you won't see any of that BS from us, essentially. However, we do have to acknowledge it in a slightly different light, and I want to get to that, because you come off a loss where your team is absolutely embarrassed. And I mean embarrassed. Like, pants pulled down, spanky bot, embarrassed. It is disgraceful. I mean, to put it on an LJ scale of embarrassment, that loss to Minnesota from a defensive perspective was about as embarrassing as that time when I was in college, and there was a floor-to-ceiling print of my face, and I kept having to take it down and reapply it because people kept drawing penises on my chin. It's that level of embarrassment, alright? So you come off that, and the Eagles go and make a statement. Well, before we even get to that, Malcolm Jenkins calls out Sidney Jones. Directly, like, it's indirect shots, but it's sort of like putting heartbroken songs on your Instagram story, hoping your ex sees it. It's that kind of indirect, like, he knows what he's doing. Sidney heard the comments. Doug has spoken directly about Sidney Jones before the game, saying he's got to run through a wall. Well, they didn't say the same about Deshaun Jackson, though, only that he never had the injury. So there's another thing we can talk about. But that happens. Then Sidney Jones gets abused. Then, in the middle of the game, Malcolm Jenkins is going at him, like shouting at him. I'm like, great, that's going well. After the game, same happens. Monday morning, Zach Brown out the building. Gone. No player seems to care about it. No coach wants to talk about it. There have been reports that he's not a good locker room fit, that he was more of an individual, that he didn't buy into the philosophies of the team. His play seemed to lack effort against the Vikings, in my opinion, especially after the first couple of touchdowns. But it was a starting linebacker who played in the bulk of snaps this season and was tied third for the team lead in tackles, right? It's a big guy to lose. Whether you agree with his points, whether you hate the fact he made them, or whether you don't see the value he brought, he was a key guy on defense, alright? He was like one of the PFF elite run defenders from the last couple of years. That was never going to change. So you lose him, and the Eagles haven't gone out and replaced him directly. They've got Duke Riley, of course, they acquired from the Falcons earlier in the Jonathan Cyprien trade. You've also got Nate Jerry. See, I shouldn't have had a beer because I've got a bit of wind. I'm very sorry. I'm trying to be very gentlemanly about this. You've got Camry Gregier Hill, TJ Edwards, and Alex Singleton. That's your linebacking group. Was Nigel Badham's gone? So, Nigel Badham's injured. Nate Jerry, I made a video on him. I think he's had flashes. He's showing improvement, but it's not enough. He's still struggling. TJ Edwards has played garbage time snaps in 2 weeks and looks okay. Like, he looks serviceable. And Camille Grugier-Hill is my little linebacker crush, bless him. He's class, so he's out of this conversation. But you wouldn't cut a starter with that in mind. If you're going to lose Bradham and Brown, you wouldn't go into week 1 without Bradham and Brown. You wouldn't, right? Especially with that group. You'd have to seek help elsewhere. So it makes that move a little bit concerning. I know the salary wasn't really a factor, but it's something to bear in mind. Especially then, when after making claims that Kirk Cousins is the weak link in Minnesota, Doug Peterson goes on WIP after cutting Zach Brown and guarantees a win in Dallas. Now, if that doesn't happen, are they going to cut Doug Peterson? Is he gone? Because it seems a bit... Of all the times to guarantee something, I get you need to galvanise a locker room right now. Seems a bit counterintuitive though, doesn't it? Seems a little bit out of character, a little bit too far. You wouldn't do... It just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me. Sort of like... You wouldn't go onto a football field, like a lunchtime with your friends after losing 7-0 or soccer, however you want to call it, and guarantee a win the next time. Because you've been humiliated once, you might be again. Just don't, alright? No, I get you need to be confident. Just say we're going to go in there, have a good football game. Everyone's excited. All you need to say. But then to rub salt in the wounds, making it even worse, an anonymous player comes out and says, the Eagles aren't doing this, the offense isn't doing that, Carson Wentz needs to throw it downfield more, Carson Wentz needs to throw the checkdowns more. Brilliant. So, you've gone from Zach Brown trash talking being cut, to Doug Peterson guaranteeing a win, to Malcolm Jenkins having a go at Sidney Jones, to now an anonymous source coming out and giving all these... I think Josina Anderson's numbers were there for context, but at least giving a hot take that Carson Wentz is somehow the problem. Now, you can speculate all day on who that player was. That's not what we're here for. I'm not that guy. This isn't that article. I'm not that blog, alright? This isn't what we do. But it is, to me, a sign of a bigger problem. I think there is something bigger going on inside the locker room. People are unhappy, as they should be at 3-3. I think it's a coaching problem, personally. We've been through this a million times. I think it comes down to schemes on both sides of the ball right now. Wentz is certainly not to blame. Why they're trying to scapegoat him, I don't know. The Zach Brown's move to me felt like a Stefan Wisniewski type move from last year, where they benched him because you can't really bench anyone else because, well, you just can't. So it's just resemblant of something a bit bigger. You've got all these tiny little fractures. Jenkins at Jones, Doug guaranteeing a win, Brown cut, anonymous source. The one thing Peterson has been fantastic at since getting this job is shutting out distraction. You've got Nigel Bradham getting a fight over an umbrella. You had the strip club incident. Everyone forgets that in 2016. You had Sam Bradford, Fletcher Cox, Darren Sproles all holding out for contracts in 2016. Ever since then, outside of Daryl Worley's bizarre DUI, which was weird, wasn't it? It was like a day after that. Oh, he's going back to Philly, could be trouble, gets the DUI. What are they expecting? Like, oh, I'm going to go to Philly and just drive it. Oh, it's unreal. Anyway, to me, there's something bigger going on. Like, you never see that much dysfunction. This is like a Pittsburgh Steeler level drama. This is like unbuttoned up, chaos, coach hasn't got a handle on it, all the wheels are coming off at once, and then I go out and win. That's the Steelers. And then I make the playoffs. That's the Steelers. But there's so much drama all of a sudden. And I don't know where it's come from. And it's really kind of worrying me at this point because I don't know how the team can get out of it and fix it. Like, what do? You've got players talking to the media, players talking on other players being released for talking on other players, and coaches guaranteeing wins. That's 3-3. That is a 3-3 move if I've ever seen it. Some people then getting very aggressive that Howie Roseman, he should have got Jalen Ramsey. Players defending him to the bone. Players shouldn't have to go out and defend their GM for not trading for Jalen Ramsey for 2 first-rounders and a 4th-rounder. That's more than Khalil Mack, hypothetically. Behave. The players shouldn't have to do that. I don't know what it is. To me, there is just... If you hear, like the emptiest cans make the most noise, a beat writer very, very once wisely said to me when I was trying to unconvincingly handle trolls on Twitter. And it's stuck with me ever since. Emptiest cans make the most noise when you kick them. The Eagles have been beaten to a pulp and that can is rattling so bad. Like, there is a beehive in that can, and it is flying around everywhere, and I don't really know what more you can do. It's very, very bizarre. And again, I don't want to speculate. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, there's a locker room problem. Doug's lost the team. I'm not that guy. I said there's pressure on Jim Schwartz. I think there is. At least pressure to make a change. Whether that's sacking or not, I don't know. But that's what I wanted to open this show with. Because you can look, there will be shows, there will be articles focused on one point. On Zach Brown. On Doug Peterson. On the anonymous source. No one's connecting the dots. There is something underlying here with this team, and it has to be ironed out, because Dallas will take advantage of it. DeMarcus Lawrence bites back. Doug Peterson then goes out and shuts DeMarcus Lawrence up. Like, I know it's rivalry week, I get that. But this isn't the position to start trash talking. You just don't do it. I'm lanky, I've got a 38-inch vertical. I do not go up to the biggest, beefiest guy at a nightclub and start giving it lip. In fact, my way out of fights is, I mean, to be fair, there was one time when tipped a box of chicken nuggets over someone. That's a very different story. That's the only fight I've ever won. 1-0, baby, undefeated. But I just wanted to keep it in mind. Emptiest cans make the most noise. I think the Eagles have a lot, and I mean a lot, rattling on right now. There is more than just there's a problem on defense, problem on offense. This guy's injured, that guy. There is more to it. I think players and egos are starting to come into this now because there is overboiling frustration. There is overboiling emotion. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was Carson Wentz talking about Carson Wentz, for Christ's sake. Like, that guy's got the most reason to be frustrated of anyone. If I was Carson Wentz, I'd be seething right now. Now, I can understand why the players would, but you don't attack your quarterback. If you're going to go out and make a point, speak truth. Speak on the secondary being diabolical. Speak on the coaching staff being diabolical. Speak on that weird field goal attempt. Speak on the fact you're surrendering close to 350 passing yards and 3 touchdowns a game. Diabolical. Do not sit there and clown a quarterback who has literally dragged you out of hell every single game like he's auditioning for an episode of Saving Private Ryan. Something is going on with this team. I don't know what it is. And hopefully you get it sorted by the end of week 7. But that was an opening rant. That's the tone for the course. Guys, if you enjoy this, stick around. Full podcast is coming up later if you listen on YouTube. If